It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Monday? We do. You do. From the Dixie Line Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, we welcome you to our Monday bonus podcast, Hacksaw's Headlines. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host, normally in left field, but in studio today with his opinions, John Riley. And we welcome you to our Monday bonus podcast. Podcast brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers. 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. If you've got projects in the house or at work or on the patio by the pool, think Dixie Line for materials, think Dixie Line for ideas. Awful lot of topics we're going to talk about on the table. John Riley, there are not enough hours in the day today to talk about all the things that we want to talk about. Holy cow.
Yeah, I mean, you share with me Hacksaw's Headlines, and then you roll in the door. You go, I got one more thing about the winter meetings, and there's just too much to fit in.
We're going lots of different directions. When we're done, we're going to turn the podcast over to you. It's called Fans Forum. It's the response from the fans who are on this podcast for the last 16 months. Absolutely amazing. John Riley, just describe for everybody who's new to the podcast how Fans Forum works.
Okay, so this is your chance to talk to Hacksaw. You got a question or comment in the world of sports, just type it in the live chat, Facebook, X, or YouTube. We'll get you involved. At the conclusion of Hacksaw's Headlines, we'll have Fans Forum.
Reminder, if you like sports, I know you like sports. That's why you're with us Mondays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. If you like sports, when we're done, I want you to sample my website. You won't believe the volume of information that I put on my website every morning. It's their first thing. You name the sport, every topic on the table. While you're at the website, there's a big orange box. Fill it out. That gets you part of Hacksaw's Insiders Group. You'll get special emails from us with different things we're doing as it relates to sports. I know you're on social media. I want you to join my all-star team, my ex-all-star team. Just use my handle at Hacksaw1090. Hit the follow button. You'll get all the alerts every time I put something up on Twitter, on X. We know that you like sports. We want you to share. Tell everybody in your Rolodex, in your address book, where we are, what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. And we want you to subscribe on the YouTube channel, because when you do that, then you get the special alerts every time we put something else up on the YouTube channel. We do that quite often during the course of the week. So we're busy. We're on all types of social media platforms. We want you part of our team. Period, exclamation point. Stop laughing, John. There's an awful lot to talk about.
I mean, your posts on Hacksaw's the best 15 on the website is just amazing how much stuff is on there. If you haven't signed up, you got to get on this list. Go to leehacksawhamilton.com, fill out that orange box.
Would you be quiet? You're wasting daylight here. We got a lot of topics on the table to talk about. All right, pick the first topic you want to talk about. I bet I know what it is.
Juan Soto gets paid. Look at this guy.
Unbelievable. The New York Mets on Sunday night signed Juan Soto. All-time record. Money is no object. Steve Cohen, New York Mets owner, gives him an unbelievable contract. 15 years, $765 million for Juan Soto. A no-trade clause, no deferred money, an opt-out clause after 5 years, or a guaranteed pay bump starting in year 6. An unbelievable amount of money, and we thought 20 years ago the Alex Rodriguez 10-year, $225 million contract was obscene. Is there an adjective to describe the amount of money Steve Cohen just gave Juan Soto? So we're going to talk about that from a couple different perspectives and angles here. Is he a generational player? Is he one of the greatest of all time? Because he's being paid at $51 million per season like nobody has ever been paid before. Is he a better complete player than Ohtani, whom he just topped in average salary and total salary? Is a better player than his former teammate, Aaron Judge? And if we go back in the day to Henry Aaron, Say Hey Willie Mays, Mickey Mantle, Is Soto better than that? I mean, to me, it's absolutely stunning. So is he the greatest generational player of all time? A lifetime 285 hitter with 201 home runs. Is he better than any of those guys I just named? Is he worth this kind of money? If it prevents you from signing other players, how does it damage your team? And I guess there's a bigger question, John Riley, I'm going to pose. Is this good for baseball in the big picture when the Mets and the Yankees and the Dodgers are realistically maybe the only teams that can afford to stock their roster with this kind of payroll player? Is that good to have 5 big-time teams and 25 others that have no chance to really compete? And from the Yankees' perspective, they upped their offer twice. They inserted an opt-out any year beyond the 5th year that he wished, which would make him a free agent again at age 31, 32, etc. The Yankees offered him $47.5 million with a signing bonus, no deferred money, and he went for the higher figure. I just get the sense that this is Scott Boras, next client, this being Juan Soto. Hell, if there was a baseball team in Ukraine, Scott Boras, if they offered the most amount of money, would give him flak jacket, a helmet, and an AR-15 and say, go play baseball in Kiev. To me, it's absolutely stunning the amount of money that was paid. Your comments are invited. No, I am demanding you make some comments about what just happened in Major League Baseball. Good for the Mets, devastating for the Yankees. In the big picture, is it bad for Major League Baseball? And John Riley says,
well, first of all, it's good for Juan Soto. And to me, this is a success story. I mean, this is a guy, is he from the Dominican? I think he is. You know, he's probably didn't come from very wealthy family. And now dude is just making almost $1 billion on this deal. This is amazing. A 26-year-old young man, and he's cashing in at the right time. There's so much money flowing through this sport. It's nice to see that the stars are getting paid. So, you know, Juan Soto is a peculiar character. You know, he's kind of a, you know, a little bit of a devil out there. He plays terrible defense. He can't run very much, but boy, can he hit. And his stats, I think they've compared him against Ted Williams and all these other Hall of Famers, that his stats were better when they were at his same age. So great for Soto. Great for kids that want to play ball to know that there's a future in this. Great for the Mets. And yeah, obviously the Yankees are pissed. And Padre fans probably thinking, hey, maybe that deal didn't work out so bad again with the Yankees.
Is he a generational player? Is he better than those names that I just posted on the board?
He might be. I mean, he's only 26. So, but see, right now, today, the market is such that there is a ton of cash. And it's amazing that the owners are willing to pay him that. And it wasn't just the Mets that offered him over $700,000. I mean, the Yankees offered him over $700,000, and I'm sure the Blue Jays and Red Sox would have offered him as much if they had the opportunity to match the Mets deal. So the owners have a lot of money. They're enjoying all the revenue streams, and it's nice to see the players getting a proportion of that was reflected by their talent.
Is it good in the overall big picture of baseball?
Now, that's a fair point. You know, now you might have haves and have-nots, and this isn't like the NFL with, you know, a hard salary cap. I think, you know, we've talked about the floor to ceiling and how that's important. But, you know, for every time we get one of these big superstar teams build up, sometimes they hit it big, like last year, the Yankees-Dodgers World Series. But there's other years it's like freaking Eric Hosmer and the Royals, you know, that kind of have a run. So, you know, they need to optimize the business model a little bit more, but I'm not really complaining about this deal. I'm happy for Soto, and I think he's getting what he deserves.
He's going to a team that has virtually no pitching staff. They've got 1 or 2 really good players led by Francisco Lindor. It's just a money grab. So you can't give me this ideology. I'm going because we're going to win.
No, but
because that pitching staff does not allow you to win. And virtually all the good pitchers are now off the board. So it's a money grab.
Well, nothing wrong with a money grab. I mean, if you're worth it, get it. You know, if you're a talk show host in, let's just say, New York City, and you get an opportunity to go from the number 2 station to the number 1 station, then you're going to make a lot more money, even though the staff there are a bunch of, you know, scoundrels. take the money, and then try to improve it. And because that's what you're worth. That's your value. If someone's willing to pay it, that means you're worth it. So why would you not take the money? I mean, this is a business. This isn't like, like you say, like the Ukraine war. This is business, and it's about getting, it's a win-win deal for the Mets and for Soto.
Have you been offered the job as Secretary of the Treasury by the incoming president? Because that sure looked like an economic 101 sales pitch to the co-host.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm a capitalist. the guy who was just elected is not a capitalist, according to the true definition of the word. Again, I'm just happy. I'm happy for Soto. And people are saying, oh, he's not worth it. There's no way a guy is worth it. If someone's willing to pay you, you're worth it.
Fans Forum chat box is open. Are you siding with me that this is bad for baseball? You're siding with the capitalist, take the money and run.
Yes.
What's your reaction? Does it make the Mets dominant? Does it kill the Yankees? Your reaction, please. Fans Forum chat box is open. Well, look at these things starting to flow in right now. You're a baseball fan. Give us an opinion. Ask a question. We're not done talking baseball because the winter meetings began at 9 o'clock this morning. Next topic, John.
Yeah, this is the late breaking news here, Hacksaw.
Okay, we're going to go team by team. Let me update you as of about a half hour ago on late breaking stories that I got from the network of people that I deal with that are down in Dallas. The Yankees promptly contacted Christian Walker, the power hitting first baseman of Arizona. They have contacted Alex Bregman of the Houston Astros. They have already been in contact with Max Fried, the Atlanta Braves pitcher, and now they're making contact with the ex-Orioles and Milwaukee ace, Corbin Burns. The Yankees are of the opinion, hate to see Soto go. We're going to take all the money we offered Soto. We hope to sign 3 to 4 marquee free agents. That's the latest on the Yankees. Philadelphia, which had a leaky bullpen that cost them last season, made the first offseason free agent move for them. They signed the top closer of the Toronto Blue Jays, Jordan Romano. Guy's got a career 2.65 ERA, had some arm problems at the end of the year, but he's jumped ship. He's gone to Philadelphia. The Red Sox, who got shut out in their attempts to hold a second meeting with Soto over the weekend at the winter baseball meetings, have made offers now to Anthony Santander of the Orioles and Teo Hernandez of the Dodgers. If they can't have Soto's bat, they're going to try to go get a different power bat at Fenway Park. Toronto, which never got the second meeting either at the winter meetings, is negotiating with Teoscar Hernandez of the Dodgers simultaneously. Trade talks have escalated. The White Sox, shopping Garrett Crochet, have 7 offers from different clubs for the left-hander. Included in the group, the Yankees, the Dodgers, both who have pretty good farm systems, the Padres, and the Red Sox. Padres, to me, look like they're on the outside looking in because I don't think they got a lot of talent they can afford to give in those trades. It looks as if Crochet's going to be dealt, and I did not realize till this morning Crochet's salary this coming season is only $2.9 million for a guy at the front end of your rotation. So you got the White Sox about to make that deal. The second deal that they think is going to happen at the winter meetings before the end of the week, Cardinals, goodbye Nolan Arenado. They're shopping him around. Red Sox, Yankees in the running. The only glitch, he's got $34 million due next year and $35 million due the second year, the final 2 years of Arenado's contract. He's probably going to be moved for pitching and minor leaguers. And then down there at the bottom, the Dodgers, after I think having walked away from Soto, turned around and signed Michael Conforto, Giants outfielder, former New York Met, Yankee. Conforto, injuries the last couple of years, gets a 1-year, $17 million deal. And the Dodgers also re-signed Blake Trinan, 2 years, $11 million per. He had a phenomenal ERA down the stretch and valuable innings and outs in the playoffs and into the World Series. And then maybe the surprise signing, because this makes no sense except if you lived in John Riley's world, where it's just about the bank. San Francisco getting Willie Adames, 7 years, $182 million, all-time greatest contract the Giants ever gave a player. He's going to a place that resembles San Quentin. I mean, there's no talent in San Francisco. Buster Posey has come in and is trying to make his mark as president and general manager, and he convinces Willie Adames to sign this mega contract. Adames is a career 240 hitter. Adames has 158 home runs. In that batting order, do you think he's going to see a strike all season unless they go get more players around him? Because they don't have much of a roster. I apologize in advance because you're a Giant fan. The damn franchise looks like Alcatraz to me from a roster standpoint. So, John, that's the latest within the hour at the start of the winter baseball meetings. I know we got a lot of baseball junkies out there. Jump into Fans Forum. Your turn to talk about the Yankees alternate for Soto and all the other storylines.
Isn't it great? Now, once the big domino falls, now there's going to be a lot of action now, which is going to be a lot of fun. So, the Yankees are scrambling. I mean, Teoscar Hernandez to the Yankees. I mean, what was your take on that?
Well, they're talking to him. They're talking to Bregman. But Teoscar's in play in Boston, Fenway Park, in play in Toronto, because they're trying to get another established bat to put next to Vlad Guerrero and Bo Bichette. So all of a sudden, Teoscar's price has gone up. I was told late last night the Dodger talks have stalled. Dodgers want him back. Dodgers are willing to go 2 years, 60. He wants 3 years total, 90 guaranteed. Dodgers think that's a little too pricey for somebody his age, even though he had the electric season. So I don't know whether, and he was such an integral part of team chemistry and leadership at Dodger Stadium last year. I don't know whether he's just going to take the money and run. You'll be sending him a Christmas card if he does that. Or whether or not he's actually true blue, loyal to Dodger baseball because he had the experience of a lifetime at Chavez Ravine. So that's the latest on Teo.
Well, I think Teoscar wants to be there. He had a great experience, and he's on a winner. I think all things equal, he would stay. But the Dodgers signed Michael Conforto, and isn't he also a left fielder?
Yeah.
So I mean, already now there's going to be a logjam in the outfield there. But well, actually, maybe not. They're filling holes because Mookie's moving in from right field to play second base or shortstop.
And Teoscar can play right field.
There you go. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm looking at these other teams on here. I mean, the Red Sox do you see that picture of Juan Soto at Fenway Park, negotiating with some of the leadership there with the green monster in the background? And Soto looks so disengaged, like he wasn't really digging what he was hearing. So, remember, we speculated for the longest time that the Mets were the likely destination. People talked about that even when he was with the Nationals because he hit so well at Citi Field. So I don't know. The Red Sox, they're in a tough spot. Nolan Arenado, is he still a primetime player, or is he kind of gone over the top of the curve?
Still Gold Glove. Batting average dipped a little bit, but he was dinged up. Guy still hits for power. And if you put Arenado in a certain stadium, he could really be damaging. The problem is that the 34 and 35 million that he's owed each of the last 2 years might be an awful big swallow for some club to make. And then what do you have to trade? Because the Cardinals desperately need pitching. So are you going to give up top young talent or established major leaguers in a multiplayer deal to get Arenado for 2 years? Because when the contract is up, he'll be 36.
Yeah, well, the Cardinals have a lot of rebuilding to do. The fan base deserves a winner out there. The Giants, by the way, they got Matt Chapman playing third base. I mean, you got Adames, and they're kind of building it. I mean, you're not going to win a championship with Lamont Wade Jr. I mean, I get that. The kid that plays center field that came over from Korea, he hopefully is healthy next year. And I like the fact it's Buster Posey in there. So he's a Giant, true blue. True orange, I should say. So the Giants, they got some work to do, but hopefully they can be competitive soon.
You're just forever the fan.
Jeez. I mean, I grew up with that team.
John, here's the roster. Look at the roster. This is a last place rocker. Well, the exception, Colorado's in the division. It's not a good roster, John.
It's way better than when the Giants had Johnny LeMaster as shortstop. So I'll take it. I mean, they're building it.
All right. Closing comment here on the winter baseball meetings. Padres, awful lot of silence with A.J. Preller. Here's the question. If you can get Sasaki by giving him next year's international pool, they have $6.2 million they can allocate. If you could get Sasaki and if you could trade for Crochet, you've traded the farm system away 3 times, so screw it. Trade it away a 4th time. And if you could get those 2 pitchers to add what you got, That'd be a pretty good roster, would it not?
Yeah, I mean, of course it would. We were talking Dodgers or Padres.
They're not Padres.
Talking Padres. Well, AJ, like you always say, has boots on the ground. AJ is always reloading. So if he trades away the farm system, I'm good with that because he's going to replenish it. And we've already got 2 marquee prospects and more that are building. So don't sweat it. The Crochet thing, though, I kind of wonder if he is a long-term guy, because he's only got a couple more years left of control. And he was a little prickly about last time he had these demands when he wanted to be traded. So I'm not sure about him. But yeah, all in on Sasaki. We got to get that guy.
But the whole world is all in on Sasaki because that's a fixed price tag. It's not a free agent bidding war.
Yeah. It's a sweet deal if you can get him. So that's got to be the number one priority because the Padres need, guys that can pitch. They don't cost $30 million a year.
The hot stove is lit. You're into baseball. This is the only place to talk baseball. We're doing sports talk the way it should be. First day of the winter baseball meetings. That's the latest as of high noon on Monday. Jump on board. I want you on Fans Forum on the chat box. We're not done talking because we got all things that happened on Sunday in the NFL.
Man, that Rams-Bills game, that was something. That was like fireworks.
Let's talk Rams. Let's talk Chargers. And then we'll wait for you to talk to us in the chat box. The Rams-Buffalo Bills. I didn't think the Rams had this in them to crank it up and do what they did to Buffalo. But boy, they came out of that locker room emotionally on the edge. They played like a pack of wild dogs, and they went after Josh Allen. And that quarterback, Matthew Stafford, went down the field. His wide receivers made circus catches all day long. And the Rams posted a 44-42 win over the playoff-bound Buffalo Bills. And they survived Josh Allen's combined 6 touchdowns.
6.
No quarterback has ever done this before. 3 TD passes, 3 TD runs. He wound up with 424 all-purpose yards. He was a one-man gang. But I'll tell you, Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua would not let the Rams down. Stafford finished with 320 and a couple of touchdowns. Nacua, 12 catches, $162 in that. 912 yards combined offense. Up and back. Oh, I mean,
it was unbelievable.
And the job that Sean McVay did, cranking his guys up to go play those guys, because those guys are really good. But the Rams punched the Bills in the mouth. The other game was at Arrowhead Stadium. The Chargers. They did everything but win the game. But I'm not sure they deserved to win, but they played hard. Their defense caused a lot of problems for Patrick Mahomes. Kansas City is the most unimpressive 12-1 team. I'm sitting here with you right now, heading to the final couple of weeks of the season. This Kansas City roster is not going to survive the playoffs. Is it fair to say living on borrowed time? But the Chargers defensively came up with a scheme that flushed Mahomes out of the pocket, prevented Mahomes from running with the football. Yeah, he made a pass at the end that got them deep into Charger territory. And Matthew Wright, clank, kicks a field goal off the upright that ricochets between the uprights and drops in.
It was fantastic.
Game-winning field goal. Mahomes was held to 221 yards. I felt bad for Justin Herbert. He got the crap kicked out of him. Big problem, Chargers. That offensive line just can't protect him. They got 3 number 1 draft picks in the offensive front, and he got whacked again. 3 sacks, 7 hits, thigh injury, knee bruise, ankle twist. But their defense really played hard against Mahomes. What a shame. They lose 19-17 to Kansas City. The Chiefs have now beaten the Chargers 19 of the last 22 times. And you couldn't see Andy Reid's face, but Andy Reid had to be really concerned that they just never put anybody away. And it's just continued to be a scuffle. Are they winning? No doubt. They're winning every one of these games by less than a touchdown. They're winning come from behind virtually every Sunday. But once you get to postseason, you're not playing the Carolina Panthers or these other teams. I think Kansas City is going to be in trouble. Their left tackle, right tackle combinations are just a disaster. But felt bad for the Chargers, felt bad for Herbert because he hung in there. What a tough hombre. Great quotes from Jim Harbaugh. You did the one day you didn't go to the bar at UCSD. You did go to English lit class.
Yeah.
Some famous guy wrote about a British commander on a ship who got badly wounded. And as he was taken down below, he said, "I'm bleeding a little. I am not slain. I will rise again." That's what Harbaugh said in his post-game press conference, making reference, the Chargers are bloody and battered and we may be down, but we will be back. It was just absolutely maple. He said it was a football fight for 4 quarters. He said, I respect the Chiefs, but I respect my team more. So Harbaugh was, what is his eloquent best. So you don't know that where that phrase came from?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
I'm bloodied and not slain, I will be back. Some British admiral said it in the War of 1812.
Oh, yeah. There's always those kinds of phrases in history.
Yeah, Harbaugh just pulls the stuff out of the sky.
Yeah.
So anyhow, so let's talk about what the Rams did. Let's talk about what the Chargers did.
Well, first of all, the Rams game was unbelievably entertaining.
Yeah.
And, oh, my God, Bills Mafia filled in SoFi. And whenever the Bills would score a touchdown, you hear big cheers.
I texted a friend back in Buffalo, and I said, "I feel bad for you." He texted back. He said, "Yeah, they're not playing well." I said, "No, I feel bad for you. There's nobody to shovel any of the snow in the 716 area code because everybody in Buffalo is out here in SoFi Stadium. It was like a Buffalo Bills home game without the cold weather."
Yeah, it was like every game in SoFi seems to be like that. But, I'm a big Josh Allen fan. I mean, just partly because he played in the Mountain West against the Aztecs. And so I always kind of root for him. California kid, from the Central Valley. And as a Niners guy, I mean, I'm not rooting for the Rams, but it was an entertaining game. Just to go to the Chargers. Oh, by the way, the Rams, I think they have a shot to make the playoffs.
7-6.
Yeah, I mean they're not in if that season ended now, but the momentum is on their side. The Charger game. I mean, it was hilarious. Like for me, they began the fourth quarter. The Chargers had the lead, and I sent a note to my buddy up in San Francisco and said, "Hey, watch what happens. The Chargers are going to lose in excruciating fashion." He goes, No. He goes, "The Chiefs are going to lose. They've been hanging on. They deserve to lose. They've been barely winning every week." And I go, "Okay, let's find out." And doink, that ball hit the upright. And it made that rattling sound. And then it went through. And you're like, "Oh, this is so Chargers."
I'm not going to tell everybody what you did to me right at the end of the game. Of course, I'm going to tell him what the hell you did to me. So John's sitting here in his castle, and obviously he's watching the game, and he texted me right at the end of the game. And the only thing he put on the screen on my cell phone, not that it was a great game, no compliments to anybody. The only word he put on the cell phone was chargering. Way to pile on. Way to pile on.
Well, it's exactly. This happens so often. I mean, I remember back, the Phillip Rivers era, there'd be games where the Chargers would lose at the last minute all the time. It just seems to happen over and over again. Now I'm wondering, could the Chargers slip out of playoff eligibility? I mean, what do you think?
Top 3 teams in the AFC West wildcard race are all 8-5.
Yeah.
Can you believe bleeping Denver in a rebuild year is 8-5 and the Chargers with all that talent are just 8-5? There's 3 teams that are 8-5 with 4 weeks to go.
Yeah. So this is going to be crazy, kind of a sprint to the finish.
But I mean, the Bolts have now gotten through the toughest part of their schedule. I mean, they're going to get Baker Mayfield and a battered Tampa Bay team next week. We'll talk about that on the Thursday podcast. So if you're an NFL fan, because we're doing sports talk the way it should be done, you're going to join us on Fans Forum. Give us an opinion. Jump into the chat box. Rams fan, react. Charger fan, you agree with me? They did everything but win the damn game. Or to agree with him, Chargering. Feel free. Okay, other topics around the National Football League, John.
Okay, yeah, let's bounce around. Bad teams, bad football.
My goodness, Atlanta. They have paid all that money to that quarterback, Kirk Clemens. They got their doors blown. Kirk Cousins. They got their doors blown off in Minnesota. Cousins, get this, in the midst of a 4-game losing streak, all the money they're paying him, last 4 losses, no touchdown passes, 8 interceptions for Kirk Cousins.
Oh, God.
And boy, they booed him unmercifully in Minnesota because he walked out on the Vikings.
Yeah.
So bad situation, Atlanta. This situation with the Raiders is just dreadful. Aiden O'Connell is gone for the year, undergoing MRI exams. Raiders got killed again yesterday down in Tampa. They've lost 9 in a row. Aiden O'Connell either has torn knee ligaments or a broken leg. They are just decimated by injuries. And to compound it, you know that Deion Sanders has his own private network group of reporters that kind of trail him, and they put out stuff about him. Shedeur Sanders talked to Antonio Pierce this week about Raiders drafting Shedeur Sanders.
Hey.
Coach Prime delivered the message, Antonio, I want you to draft my kid at quarterback.
Cool.
Now, obviously, Raiders are going to have a very high draft pick. We'll find out. But the Raiders are 2-10. What a disaster that is. Only surpassed by the Pro Bowl, maybe Hall of Fame quarterback Aaron Rodgers, whose Jets are now 3-10. What a mess that is. And he threw for 330-plus yards yesterday. It's the highest total he's had in 3 seasons. And Garrett Wilson had an unbelievable day. Devontae Adams had an unbelievable day, both well over 100 yards in receptions, and the Jets still lost. I could have never, ever imagined Aaron Rodgers' team would be 3-10. In Cleveland, Jameis Winston is Jameis Winston. Sunday's game with Pittsburgh was a typical Jameis Winston day. Big pass play down the field, touchdown pass, turnovers. End of story. Cleveland gets pasted by Pittsburgh. Here's a stat I didn't realize, and I used to work in Cleveland. I knew how tough it was to go into Pittsburgh back in the day in the Chuck Noll era, and the Browns just could never win there. The Browns have lost 21 straight games over 21 years in Pittsburgh.
That's unbelievable.
It is an amazing
Yeah.
statistic. And the last one is the New York Football Giants, owned by the Mara family. Right before kickoff, somebody in a plane flew over MetLife Stadium in the Meadowlands with a huge trailing banner. Giants dumpster fire. And the sub on the bottom of the banner said, fire everybody. And the players saw it. And they went out and they got crushed again.
Yeah.
They've lost 8 in a row. The Giants are winless at home. They're 0-7 at home in the Meadowlands this season. So, yeah, we can talk about great teams and great quarterbacks, but boy, there's some bad football being played around the NFL. Your comments, please, on Kirk Cousins, the Raider Nation, and those other 3 really bad teams.
Okay, well, first of all, does Michael Penix have a shot here, or is he still going to be the backup in Atlanta?
The media is saying it's time. And you're on the hook for all this money you gave Kirk Cousins, and he's playing like this. I would have never, ever imagined that quarterback would go 4 games, no touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and make the kind of decisions he's making. I mean, he should have beaten the Chargers a week ago Sunday, and he gave that thing away.
Yeah.
Because in Minnesota, and was just dreadful in the loss there. The media is chastising the Atlanta leadership, saying, why won't you play this other guy? Because you're not winning with that guy. Amazing story.
Yeah, I mean, but that's Atlanta. Let's talk the Raiders. I mean, Shedeur Sanders going and having prime time sort of linked indirectly with the Raiders would be just great theater. But I'll tell you this, we set you up with a new Blue Sky account, and it's kind of like Twitter. And Antonio Pierce is following you on Blue Sky.
Oh, I bet he's not going to send me a Christmas card.
I was wondering because we've been kind of bashing him a little bit.
What's your record, pal? That's just critiquing what your record is.
But we'll see if it's a verified account. It might be an imposter. Who knows? Jameis Winston with Cleveland is interesting to me. I had no idea about his personality. I mean, that guy,
dynamic,
very. I mean, in front of a microphone, that guy's got a lot to say. He's funny. He's enjoyable. It's a guy that you want to see have success.
But a couple things with him. 1, he's got a cannon for an arm. 2, he's a competitor. 3, he will throw touchdowns. And 4, he will throw picks, and he'll take sacks, and he'll fumble the football. I think in modern day NFL quarterbacks, he's one of the highest touchdown guys, but he's got one of the worst turnover ratios there is. Just absolutely stunning.
That sounds like Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
But I think I'd rather have Winston over Minshew, wouldn't you?
Yeah. But you always know how it's going to wind up with Winston. I think that's a problem.
It's just, man, it's drudgery there for Cleveland. And yeah, New York football is a disgrace up and down. And when you're talking about the banner that they flew over on the airplane, do you remember when the Chargers moved up to LA to Carson? They were doing that like every week, dump Spanos, they were all over the ownership there too. I mean, imagine having the money to throw at something like that, just to have an airplane fly over the stadium.
Okay. That's the first half of our Monday bonus podcast. We do sports talk the way it should be, and that will include you. We want you to join us in Fans Forum right at the end. Jump into the chat box if you got some opinions on some of the topics that we have put on the table. This podcast brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. Christmas shopping season's coming up. John, I came up with the idea. I don't know if you're going to get me one or not, but Dixie Line gift cards are kind of cool as stocking stuffers.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can get them in any denomination. They're good at all the stores in San Diego and in Orange County. You can use it to buy hardware. You can use it to buy power tools. You can use it to buy lumber, building materials, even Christmas decorations. They sell those inflatable Santas and stuff there too.
Even the green paint that I shouldn't have put on the wall that was actually colored brown.
Yeah. How in the heck can you be colorblind as a sports broadcaster?
I am bleeping brilliant. I overcome all the obstacles there are. But you know what? Left-handed, creative, good-looking. There's so few of us like that. So shut up. Anyhow, you got projects, including shopping for the guy in your house. Think about a gift card from these guys, people we do business with, Dixie Line Lumber. We go to the second half of our Monday bonus podcast. And of course, when we're done, we open it up for you. Jump on board in the Fans Forum chat box with questions, comments, opinions. We'll try to get the best ones on the air. Also want to remind you, if you like sports, please check my website. I write about it every day of the week, leehacksawhamilton.com. It's there. It's absolutely free. You won't believe the volume of information that I make available to you. On my own one-man's gang in terms of gathering and information and writing about sports. Also, when you get on the homepage of my website, there's a big orange box. Fill it out. You can become part of Hacksaw's Insiders Group. Also want you to put me on your social media list. You're involved in social media, X, Twitter, etc. Want you to join Hacksaw's Insiders Group and then follow me at Hacksaw1090 on Twitter. Want you to share, tell everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. Want you to subscribe. When you subscribe via YouTube, you'll be able to get alerts every time you put something new on the YouTube channel, which you do quite often during the course of the week. So we got a lot there to cover. All right, let's move on. Second half. What a great weekend. I watched so much football on Saturday, my head almost fell off. And then on Sunday, I watched even more football, and my eyes almost watered to the point I could not see. But what a great sports weekend it was.
Oh, it was fantastic. It kicked off Friday, and it was all day Saturday.
Let's talk about what happened on the gridiron. Those Oregon Ducks, they are 13-0. That was a hell of a game with Penn State, because I kept thinking, well, Penn State will come back because they got great athletes, and Penn State almost did come back. But Dylan Gabriel was phenomenal, throwing for 324 yards. Tez Johnson had 11 receptions. Ducks running game, which gets no recognition at all, combined for 183 yards on the ground. Penn State just ran out of time, and they were running up too big a hill to beat them. But boy, that Oregon-Penn State Big Ten title game was something. That Georgia-Texas game, that was like a civil war. My goodness, that was tough. Texas totally came out of character. They'd not played like this at all, and Georgia just put their defensive will on them. Actually, put their defensive fist in Texas's face. Horns, 2 picks, lost fumble, 2 missed field goals, 11 penalties, and Quinn Ewers got sacked 6 times. And Georgia won without Carson Beck, the starting quarterback, who got hurt early and then came back in and handed off on the final play of the game, unable to use his right hand to get them the overtime winning touchdown on the ground. Clemson-SMU, ACC championship game. Clemson slammed them early SMU showed an enormous amount of grit to come back. But I'll tell you what, that young quarterback at Clemson, Cade Klubnik, the kid that did not want to play early in the season, he goes for 262 and 4 touchdowns. What a great young quarterback he's turned out to be. In Clemson, very different team than the Clemson team that started the season by losing. And then in the Big 12, you have a hard time recognizing who represented the Big 12 in the championship game. Arizona State smoked Iowa State. What a job by Ken Dillingham. He took a team that was an NCAA probation and flipped it within 2 years to get them to 11-2. Transfer quarterback, transfer running back from a 1AA school, Sacramento State. Arizona State stomped Iowa State. And then in the Mountain West Conference, Boise State does what Boise State does, and they just grabbed UNLV by the throat and never let go. Ashton Genty, 209 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. And Boise, get this, Boise is 1 missed field goal away from being 13-0. That missed field goal was opening weekend where they nearly won in Eugene against Oregon, but missed the game-winning field goal right at the end. Think about how really good collective they are to be sitting there at 13-0. I mean, it was, now you know why I had a headache by the time I got to Saturday night at 9 p.m. I couldn't see straight. I'd watched so much college football. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and look at those names on the list. 2 of them are winners are former Pac-12 teams in Arizona State and in Oregon. And 3 of the 5 winners are west of the Mississippi. So this is a big deal for us, in the Pacific and Mountain time zones. But I had a great time watching all these games. I mean, just a few comments. That running back for the Sun Devils, that was it, Skitterboo or
transfer Sacramento State, 1AA, unrecruited. Boy, is he a tough guy. He's kind of built like a fire hydrant.
Yeah, and the dude's got moves. I mean, I was just flabbergasted at the way he was getting into open space and driving the ball. I mean, he was really special. And by the way, it's cool to see the Sun Devils on the stage because no one has that color scheme. Well, that you don't know because you're colorblind, but no one has that color scheme,
It was maroon and gold. And
Yeah.
they're wearing, for the first time in decades, they're wearing Sparky Sun Devil on the side of the helmet, which was the original logo when I did the games. And we went to the Holiday Bowl, then we went to the Rose Bowl and beat Bo Schembechler in Michigan. And then, marketing whiz, some $200,000 associate AD says, oh, we're going to change the striping on the jerseys. And we'll change the jerseys. And I don't like the helmet. We'll come up with an arrow or something different. They're playing this year with Sparky, the Sun Devil, on the helmet. That's one of the reasons they are where they are.
So that logo right there on the screen, that's Sparky?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a logo on the side of the helmet. That's the one they used to have back in the Frank Kush era when they joined the Pac-10 that became the Pac-12, when they got really good, and then before the coaches all left and the program tilted downwards.
Yeah. By the way, that's the same logo that the Mount Carmel High School uses. They're also the Sun Devils here locally. But I'm just thrilled for all these teams. I mean, they're all nicely set up now for the playoffs. Some of those other teams have also made the playoffs, even if they lost on Saturday. What a great time in sports.
Okay, so that leads us into the next topic. I think we might be arguing, you and I, about the next topic on the table.
Playoffs? Were you talking playoffs? So here we go. 12 teams. It's going to be great.
We got 12 teams, and we got a ton of big controversy. Okay, so the first round buys handed out late yesterday. Oregon is number 1 in the ratings. Bye. Georgia, SEC champ. The 2 wins against Texas, the reason they are number 2 in the country. Boise, as I said, 1 missed field goal away from being 13-0, but they're number 3. Arizona State is representing the Big 12, so they are ranked 4. After that, everybody else gets thrown into the bin, and they're going to have to play first-round games. The top 4 that I just mentioned all get the first-round bye. The best first-round play-in games, as I call it, Texas Clemson, it's going to be a really good game. They're going to play next weekend or the following weekend in the first round. And then the other one on the Wabash, Notre Dame, Indiana.
Ooh.
You think that's going to be crazy?
Yeah, that's a civil war in Indiana.
They need a stadium of 200,000 to see that game. Notre Dame against Indiana in another first-round game. Those are the 2 marquee games to pay attention to. They're not happy in Tuscaloosa. Here's Alabama. 3 losses against one of the toughest schedules in football. They did not make the top 12 in the playoff rankings. They're out. They're going to be like you and me watching it on TV. And Miami's Hurricanes, which had a great season going, but then lost 2 games in the final 3 weeks of the season, they got bumped out. Of course, they were an ACC guy, didn't get to the playoffs, but those back-end season losses kind of crucified them. Now, there's big debate today. People are looking at the first-round matchups, the play-in games, and then who will play who in the second round, and there's all of a sudden there's this big debate. Okay, so you had the conference champions, John. What if they reseed the field? Once they know who the conference champions are and everybody else, then you take all those teams and you reseed them. A lot of people don't think Boise deserves to be where they are in the rankings at number 3. A lot of people think Texas and some of these other guys deserve better rankings because of who they are, who they played. So there's a little bit of controversy about that. And now there's a debate going on, and I don't think you can change the rules here this late. There's a debate after we play the first round games. Why don't we just reseed who's left for the actual second round? In other words, rip up the rules that you spent a year developing, and let's just reseed so the right teams get in the right spots so the best teams get in. Because the potential could be when we get to weekend 2 of the playoffs, we got to have Oregon State in a repeat from what happened early in the season. A lot of people think, no, it shouldn't be that way. Ohio State's really good despite the last season loss and riot. Ohio State should not have to play Oregon in the playoffs right to begin with. So a lot of debate. It's going to be fun. This guy wanted 12 teams. I hope there's no 50-7 blowouts, but there could be along the way. But your reaction to what you saw, your reaction to the rankings, and if I gave you a ticket, would you rather see Texas Clemson? If I gave you a ticket, would you rather see the Irish against the Hoosiers?
Well, I'd go to the Irish Hoosiers game. I think it's a special year for Indiana. So that'd be, and then, they've always been in the shadow of Notre Dame when it comes to football.
You think?
Yeah. So, first of all, I think this is great for the sport. Okay. Remember, we used to not have a playoff way back when, and it was like a mythical number 1. It was ridiculous. And they finally had 2 teams and they went to 4. Now they're 12, which is great. Now, in my opinion, I would open it up to 16 or even 32, to make this a really entertaining, like a March Madness kind of tournament. Now, on one level, it is amazing that Boise got a bye, because we know the bias and all the East Coast media and the power conference people are like, oh yeah, the Mountain West, that's nothing. These guys don't deserve it, but they legitimately do deserve it. And the fact that they want to reseed like after the first round of the games is just more manipulation by the power people, that are trying to get their guys in like Alabama and Ohio State. Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. Alabama lost to a really, down Oklahoma team. And if Alabama would have gotten in, it would have been just criminal, in my opinion.
Kind of like last year, Florida State was kind of criminal.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think this is going to be all good. And I think it's going to set up really nicely. We're going to have a legitimate, unquestioned national champion, and the smaller conferences have some representation in this. And I think that's good for the sport.
You're lucky that this podcast is viewed predominantly by everybody on the West Coast. Because I swear to you, if there was somebody in Boston or somebody in Athens, Georgia, they'd be saying, who the hell is this idiot on the West Coast making all these pronouncements about bias? Anyhow, college football, I don't think can top last weekend, but they will, because we got some really great games. By the way, one other topic on the table as it relates to college football, John.
Yeah, the coaching carousel is turning.
This knocked me off my feet. Utah State. Who? Utah State, Mountain West Conference. New head coach. Who? Bronco Mendenhall. They stole him from New Mexico. Now, asterisk next to that. Bronco Mendenhall, his family, his wife, they're all from Utah. It's kind of like going home. But he had signed a 5-year contract with the New Mexico Lobos, and he won 5 games in a program that hadn't won 5 games in ages. And he opted out. And within hours after he opted out, the great quarterback at New Mexico, Devin Dampier, and their top running back, Eli Sanders, both announced they're going into the portals. Probably send all their mail to Logan, Utah. What an acquisition, though, because he's a really good coach. So he's left New Mexico after 1 season. He's going to Utah State. You had to see this coming, despite the fact they gave him a lot of money. And they have a lot of NIL money based on the casinos in Las Vegas. Barry Odom, the coach, is gone. he took the Purdue job on Sunday morning. So he, of course, had been at Arkansas, had had great success. Flipping UNLV was 19-11. Hell, they hadn't won 19 games in 5 years at Vegas. He's out of there. He's gone to Purdue. North Carolina. They have now talked to Bill Belichick 3 times.
Really?
This conversation is a lot deeper than anybody realized. Belichick said this morning on a podcast out of Boston, let me get these quotes correct. When the question was posed, are you really serious about this? Because I'd been led to believe that North Carolina initially talked to him about how do you set up an infrastructure to run a college football program like they run NFL programs, because all the money involved and now player acquisitions and all these major college programs are hiring general managers of their football program and their NIL operation.
Mm-hmm.
Stanford hired Andrew Luck last week.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So that's what I thought was the reason North Carolina was meeting with Belichick. That's not the reason. Belichick says he thinks he's qualified to run a college football program, though he spent 24 years in the NFL, has never been a head coach in college football. He says his blueprint would be to set up a college program pipeline like an NFL pipeline. It'd be for the players. We'd train them, we'd teach them, we'd give them nutrition, we'd coach them, we would educate them, prepare them for a career either in the NFL or just a career in life, things like time management and life skills, and pave the way for a North Carolina player to be somebody when he left, be somebody in the NFL if he's good enough, or be somebody in the business world. So that's what Belichick's sales pitch has been. And he's got a whole staff put together. He's got a whole bunch of ex-New England Patriot coaches that are willing to go to the end of the earth with him, either back to the NFL or maybe wind up in Chapel Hill at North Carolina. And the last one is Oklahoma State. It's quite a story involving Mike Gundy. And I know you got ties to Oklahoma State, John. Mike Gundy, coming off of just a miserable season. They lost their last 9 games. He fired both his coordinators the night of the final game of the season. Mike Gundy was told by Oklahoma State, you must take a pay cut and you must reduce the buyout in your contract. So, and Gundy kind of caved in. You wouldn't think Gundy do that. He says, I got the leverage. You're going to buy me out this $25 million buyout. Gundy took a huge pay cut, like I was told 31% of his salary. And they reduced what was a $25 million buyout, I think maybe down to 10 or 15 million based on how many shares left on the contract. He's got something to prove because the program went off the rails and he acted like an ass an awful lot towards players, towards the media, towards fans and the alumni. He wound up going 3-9, and Oklahoma State had been 3-9 in a long, long time. So interesting stories there. How about Bronco Mendenhall jumping New Mexico to go home with 4 years left on his Lobo contract?
It's just like Juan Soto, man. You're moving around, So I know Mexico fans were thrilled to have Bronco Mendenhall there.
Hell of a job.
And what he did was incredible. But it's interesting how Barry Odom is going. He got the promotion to the Big Ten to go to Purdue from UNLV, which I think is fantastic for him. And Purdue needs help. But it's interesting that Bronco didn't move up to a power conference. But like you said, maybe it was going home.
Yep.
And so, the Aztecs will still have to contend with him in the Mountain West. I don't believe Bill Belichick's heart is in college football.
Why would you do that then?
Well, because he's desperate to coach again, and he's been trying to get these NFL gigs, and he can't get hired. Yeah. But so I think this has got to be a plan B for him, because he would take any NFL gig over UNC. And then Oklahoma State. I just think of Mike Gundy. He goes, I'm a man. I'm 40. That guy. And it's Oklahoma State should be running away with the Big 12 in football. And the fact that they had such a rotten season this year is unbelievable. I mean, it doesn't compute to me.
Transfer quarterback, running back that thought he was going to be the Heisman Trophy winner, that didn't even have 800 yards rushing this year. Just a really bad experience in Stillwater. And I guess the thing that's galling is the other guy in Norman, they had a miserable season too.
Venables.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, his job is probably going to be on the line. So Gundy had no leverage at all, and Gundy kind of caved in. But he got a lot of work to do to kind of regain his mojo.
Yeah, he does. But you know what? Venables beat Alabama. So that's going to be a nice little star on his collar. But yeah, Oklahoma State needs to do a better job.
Okay, you're into college football. Talk about the coaching carousel. Let's jump on board. Let's discuss that. Next topic on the table. Are you bouncing basketball, air balls, or turnovers, John?
Lakers and Clippers, injuries and losses. This is a rough go for LA.
Yeah,
Hoops.
Lakers are really dinged. They don't have Austin Reeves. He's got a bad bruise in the hip area. They don't know when he's going to play again. And now LeBron James comes out of the lineup. He's got a foot problem that is flared out of nowhere. But he's like playing 38 minutes a game at age 39. That's too many minutes. So Lakers had just a miserable 4-game road trip. Still not playing very much defense. We'll see if they can take a deep breath here. We're going to have a bunch of days off because they didn't get to the NBA Cup semifinals or finals. So we'll see if they can gather this thing back in. Clippers have really been playing well. It's sitting there at, I think it's 14-11. James Harden has just been carrying them. I mean, he had games this past week of 37 and 43 points, but now he goes down. He's got a groin injury. So they're hurting just a little bit. Going to be interesting to see. The other storyline, and this is weird, Kawhi Leonard showed up on Friday at practice for the Clippers. Now, he did not practice with the team. He did one-on-ones just with a trainer. And I'm not he didn't put the ball on the floor and drive to the basket. He wasn't doing defensive sets. He wasn't moving side to side, but he just stood in a corner, stood at the foul line, side of the lane, just taking jump shots. That's all. It has been 8 months of therapy on this knee inflammation thing, and this is the first time he's been on a court. Media was not allowed to talk to him. Actually, the media was shunted aside when Kawhi came on. They were told not to video, but I saw some video that somebody posted. So he's a long road back, but at least he's doing some minimal basketball stuff. But standing with a trainer and just shooting jump shots over the trainer, that's not like playing in an NBA game. So, maybe they're working towards post-Christmas because I just don't know. He's been out so long, and he's had so many recurrences of the knee inflammation with Kawhi. So that's your Laker update, which is not good. And that's the Clipper update where I guess you're walking around hopeful.
Kawhi wants to play.
Sure.
He wants to get back in there.
That's his DNA.
Yeah, and he's limited by these injuries. So it's nice to see him out there taking some shots, but I just have a lot of doubts about him. Now, let's go back to the Lakers. There were times this season in the early part of the year where they were looking really good. And Dalton Connect was lighting it up. And now all of a sudden they kind of gone through a downturn. I mean, it's like a schizo team. Yeah,
and they were playing some bad teams early. We beat the crap out of the Washington Wizards, who were just in the middle of a 7-game losing streak. That doesn't count very much. What does count is when you went on the road and you played 4 straight games and you lost from 25 to 27 to 29 to 41-point margins. Holy cow. Yeah.
That was brutal.
Murder in Miami. So, and it's a long season. Geez, I mean, I would say 3 weeks into the season, you and I sat here on this podcast. I said, I can't believe the minutes that Anthony Davis and LeBron are playing. They were playing 38 and 39 minutes a game.
Mm-hmm.
Now you get the wear and tear. He's been hurt twice since I made that comment. Now LeBron's got this foot sprain. They're not enunciating the specific of what's gone on. I just think this is going to be a bad season. I look down that bench. I see a flawed roster. I don't see a hell of a lot of guys that I could trust to win me games.
I love basketball, but the NBA regular season just kind of loses some pizzazz.
You're not an NBA Cup fan. What the hell's wrong with you?
Well, I think it's cool they're doing that. Isn't Etihad the sponsor of that? I think, the Saudi airline. But I'm a big college basketball fan, which is just so entertaining right now. And the regular season for the NBA, maybe it'll start cooking. We're going to get to February. It'll be the All-Star game, and we'll be talking about how they don't play defense, and here we go again. But I don't know. LeBron, when does he know when it's time to retire?
Yeah, but when you're averaging 28 points a game and you're doing all the things he's doing, and he plays with such gusto and passion, and granted, he's had some bad games recently, and now he's dinged a little bit, but I don't think that he's at the end of the road. I think there's another good year left in that body. Now, maybe they need to space the minutes so he's not racking up 38 minutes every night, which to me is a real grind. But I don't think his career has reached the end. I still think there's gas left in that tank.
Like, if you look at all the big-time stars in NBA history, did any of them play around the age 40? Did Wilt Chamberlain play that long in his career?
maybe close. Jordan, maybe close.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll see a drop-off in productivity. Jordan, right at the end, I think Jordan was averaging, he was with the Washington Wizards at the end, which felt weird to me. He was averaging 17 or 21 per game. He just wasn't the same player anymore in terms of getting the shots, making the shots athletically, doing all the phenomenal things. So you'll see if his statistics start to do this on a consistent basis, then you say, hey, this was great. I'm going to the Hall of Fame. We won these rings. It is time to step away. But at this point, no.
I think he's probably secretly hoping that his son Bronny somehow makes it back to the NBA roster.
He was on the roster last night against Portland. He played 2 minutes, went 0 for 2.
He was back on the Laker roster, Bronny?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he's on the active roster. He's been out with a heel injury. He goes from the active roster as the last man down to the NBA G League team, but he hasn't played in the G League in a couple of weeks because he had a bruised heel, but he did play last night.
See, again, that's all nepotism, isn't it? It's got to be. I mean,
that's a cruel word. The correct word is legacy.
Okay. Oh, the Lakers are a disaster right
Okay, if you're an NBA fan looking for somebody to bounce past me a shot here, talk about the Lakers Clippers on Fans Forum. Last topic on the table, we're talking puck.
Hockey hotline. Here we go. Ducks Rangers trade.
Oh, Canada. Hey, if you're with us, I want to hear from you on this trade. I've been barking for the better part of 6 months to a year that this general manager, Pat Verbeek in Anaheim, has to do something to turn the corner with this perennial last place, not a playoff franchise. And they're playing collectively, they're playing better. I open a big East Coast road trip. They play the Montreal Canadiens tonight back there. Ducks make this huge trade with the New York Rangers. They trade a 4th-round draft pick and they trade another defenseman to the Rangers for the Rangers captain, Jacob Trouba. Trouba's huge, big, physical force guy, offensive defenseman. And again, the prototype for Pat Verbeek's defenseman is, I want you big, I want you wide, and I want you to be mean. And that's what Trouba is. So he left New York where he was the captain of the team, but there was a falling out between him, coaching staff, and the front office operation. In fact, there's rumors there's going to be a second trade involving maybe Vancouver. They're going to trade one of their other co-captains, get him out of New York. But at the end of the day, they trade for Jacob Trouba and they take on $12 million. What's left in this year's salary, which is about $4.5 million, and next year's $8 million. Because I was screeching, you got all these high draft picks and they've drafted pretty well, and you're force feeding them all. You got all this unspent free agent money. Why the hell do something to go get veteran players to put around all these kids? Well, they just committed $12 million of their unspent money to get Trouba. But boy, he's a war horse. He is, and he logs a lot of minutes. And so I'll be interested. He makes his debut with them against Montreal tonight. So the Ducks finally make a deal. But for every piece of good news involving the Ducks, there's got to be something bad. They lose Trevor Zegras again. He missed a large chunk of a year ago with a broken ankle, and now Zegras has gone down. We think he's re-injured the ankle again, and that's really bad. Because he's not scoring goals this year, not like he did prior. His first 2 years in the league, he had 46 goals, and you thought superstar in the making, and he's really tailed off. And now he's been hurt. It's a third different significant injury he's had in his very young career. We don't know whether he broke the ankle again or whether there's a fracture or a bone chip. He got hit, and he could not skate off the ice. They had to carry him off the ice. So we'll get a better indication, I think, within the next week, how long he's going to be out and whether it's a refracture of the broken ankle that he had, which would be devastating to the kid. So that's your hockey hotline update as we march towards into the month of December.
You're right. You've been talking about the Ducks, all these young kids, but I think this is the right way to build a program where you have young guys that are going to be the core of the team. And then you add a veteran to complement, to fill in spots, and I rather than the other way around where you got old veterans that are leading a team like LeBron, with the Lakers. So I think this could be very helpful for the Ducks.
It can be helpful if the kids don't get overwhelmed and they don't get psychologically scarred. I mean, and they're playing an awful lot of young guys up there right now, led by the Swedish #1 pick last year, who I think is pretty good, Leo Carlson. And a young defenseman. They got 3 or 4 young defensemen are all up there. But when you're a young defenseman and you can't keep the puck out of your net and you're a -15 or a -20 on plus minus goals scored against while you're on the ice. That's not good for the team. It's not good for your psyche. But they're force feeding all these guys. But when you got all this cap space, so you go out and make the right acquisition to put around these kids. Now, they've got veterans. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they got Frank Vetrano, who had a good season last year. They got a couple of other veteran guys, but the progress has just been really slow. They got 2 veterans left that they might trade. They're shopping Cam Fowler, who's asked to be traded, who said, I've had enough of this rebuild. And the veteran goaltender, John Gibson, who was injured, sick. He's come back. He's played pretty decently in appearances. But the problem is those guys have big salaries, and clubs are right up against the cap right now. So it's kind of hard to think I can take on John Gibson's salary at 6.5 for the next 3 years. So unless the Ducks are going to pay some of that John Gibson salary so they can move him and get some other veteran player, or move him and get somebody else's 2nd or 3rd round draft pick. So I don't think the Ducks are done dealing, because I think there might be 2 more trades maybe to come. But somewhere along the line, all the kids got to start to play together and show they can actually do this. And then you got to get the right veterans to complement the kids.
It's interesting to compare the Ducks with the Angels. Both in Orange County there. The Ducks are trying to make it work. The Angels are, you don't know what they're trying to accomplish.
Well, they're stockpiling guys. I mean, they're signing more people, but they're, as I alluded to last week, which I don't think was taken very well up in Orange County, I said, that's a hell of a pitching staff. They've got 5 number 4 starters on their pitching staff.
That's a very accurate statement.
Well, that is an accurate statement. And they just signed another one an hour ago. They signed a kid by the name of Dakota Hudson, who was a 16-game winner with the St. Louis Cardinals a group of years back. And he bounced from St. Louis to Pittsburgh to Colorado, did not get re-signed. ZRA was 6.18 this past year in Colorado. Angels just signed him about an hour ago. But again, I have a problem with this because it kind of looks to me that Artie Moreno, who tells everybody, I own the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, the number 2 market in the country, but he shops at Dollar General for talent. It's a big issue with me. I think it's a big issue for those fans there. But
I like that crib sheet right there. I mean, because you're constantly taking notes.
I have notes on everything, and notes all over the house.
Yeah.
None of it's important in terms of my life, but it's important to me in terms of my career.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got to keep track of all these number 4 starters.
Don't be bagging on me. I just saw your man's cave. There's a lot of disarray there, too.
Yeah, there is.
Hey, listen, we hope you are enjoying what we're doing. Our podcast, Fans Forum, is coming up next. This podcast is brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers. There are 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. Whatever the project is, in the home, be it the kitchen, be it the bedroom, be it the closets, be it shelves, outside on the patio, around the pool, tables, flooring. These are the people to do business with. Dixie Line Lumber. We've asked you to participate. Last week, we nearly blew the computer up. We had so many people that wanted to get through. John Riley, this is all your fault. You created Fans Forum, so I'm going to let you monitor it. Go ahead.
Okay, let's start off here with a little bit of college football here. And this is from Greg. He goes, Lee and John, any chance Washington State and Oregon State join the Mountain West Conference and make it 14 teams?
No. They are committed to try to get to a Pac-12. They need to add one more football power. As we sit here in December, Greg, I'm of the opinion they're going to go to the NCAA and say, we have added what we can add right now. Give us a waiver so we can be eligible for the college playoffs, and just give us time, because there may be some more shuffling. Don't make us hire some school that we don't really think fits just so we can have 8 football playing members. Right now they got 7. But, there are other sales pitches. We got Gonzaga. Look at what we've done to the Pac-12 national brand by adding them with San Diego State as a basketball power. So I project they're going to ask the NCAA for a waiver to give them another 2 years to find an 8th football playing member, because there's really nobody left out there. And I'm sorry, Tulane and Memphis are not West Coast schools, are they?
No, they're not. They're not in the mountains or in the West. Yeah. But, I think of the teams that the Mountain West is expanding to are the Montanas and the Dakotas, all of those kind of teams would be probably better fits.
It would be, but those schools, I don't think financially can afford it. Because if you go from 1AA, which right now is 65 scholarships, to Mountain West, let's just use, for example, the 2 best schools in the Big Sky, Montana State. They're at 65 grants each. I don't know where that money comes from at Montana State to get them to 85 scholarships. And if you go to 85 scholarships, you did go to law school that one day. Then you got to deal with Title IX. Because if you're taking football to 85, that impacts the number of women's scholarships you got to fund. So there's a lot more money outlay. And I just don't think Montana State, and they are the two best in the Big Sky. I don't think that they can go to the Mountain West right now financially.
Well, you know, in the Dakotas, there's a lot of people making money fracking for oil out there. So there might be some deep pockets. But let's keep moving on. And by the way, there was so much Juan Soto talk, and we're going to blow through a lot of these.
Go ahead.
Let's go to Johnny. He goes, the Mets pitching still sucks donkey ass, and the bullpen still has holes.
They do. I concur. Unless you firmly believe that a year post-surgery with the knee issue, Edwin Diaz is going to be great. But, you know, the Mets don't have Minaya. The Mets don't have Quintana. Those guys, Severino left. He went to the Oakland Athletics. So they got some holes in their pitching staff. They are signing some free agents on the mound, but none of them are frontline guys who say, this is the ace of my staff. We're going to beat you with my – none of those guys are aces, at least at this point in time. And now, maybe that changes. If they get Corbin Burns or if they get Max Fried, there's a couple frontline starters still out there. Maybe that changes things. But right now, Soto took the money and he went to what I don't think is a great team, a great 25-man roster right now.
They're not, you know, but they were close to making the playoffs at the very end of the season.
The Mets did make the playoffs.
Oh, they did? Okay.
Yeah, the Dodgers beat them.
Okay, excuse me. Pardon me. Sean Manaea is on that staff, or at least he's a free agent now. I mean,
all those guys are free agents.
But do you believe in Sean Manaea? Has he become a new guy that's going to have a career going for another 4 or 5 years, or was it a one-hit wonder?
It might be he reinvented himself, so he's good for another couple of years. That's okay. He's your fourth pitcher. But you can't sales pitch me, hey, Sean Manaea is the ace of my staff.
Well, they used to have Verlander and Scherzer.
They all broke down.
They did. They all did break down.
They all had 200,000 miles on their arms. Those guys are unsigned as of this hour.
You know, I bet the Mets are kicking themselves for not keeping Seth Lugo. I mean, he did a hell of a job. I mean, he was fantastic for the Royals.
In Kansas City, I concur. But again, that's a physical wear and tear thing. And they had him as a reliever because he was coming off arm problems. They didn't trust that he could hold up. And he didn't hold up till he got to San Diego. And then all these years removed, he became the ace of the Kansas City staff. But to me, at that age, with that history of injury, that's a year-to-year thing.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So I concur, John. I wouldn't use that language, but I concur. The Mets are deficient pitching-wise. We'll see if there's something else coming. I mean, I do like that left-hander David Peterson a lot. I think he's got Bulldog written all over him. But is he an ace? No, he's probably a good number 3 guy. So Mets got pitching to go get, but they got Soto. I haven't not had a chance today to look at the tabloids in New York. They must be going crazy with the Mets getting Soto, and they must just be bagging on the Yankees. Don't you wish you had a tabloid newspaper here?
Yeah, like the New York Post or something like that. Yeah. You can count on that. There's a lot of that going on.
Okay, next topic.
Okay, let's go to Richard, Fans Forum. Talk about Soto. He's a one-dimensional player. He's bad at defense, can't even catch a cold, can't run. He's about the money. I don't want to hear about how LA is bad for baseball. He's a cancer.
Well, he got what he wanted. John says he got what he deserved. That's an awful lot of money to give a guy who's a 285 lifetime hitter, who is, he's got pop in his bat. There's no doubt. If you put good people around him, but does he have a good lineup around him with the Mets like he had with the Yankees? There's no Aaron Judge hitting behind him.
No, I mean, you got Lindor. Alonso's gone.
Alonso's not gone, but who knows if Alonso's going to be back, because Alonso wants bank too.
So who is it? There was like Nito was one of the other guys out there. I mean,
Brandon Nemo.
Well, there was a Nemo and a Nato, right?
Yeah, Nemo is the established star player, and he's making $20 million.
Yeah, he's the outfielder,
yes,
right? And the other guy's the catcher,
right?
And neither one of them are like Finding Nemo, like the cartoon movie, which I always kind of get confused with those guys. But yeah, the Mets are going to keep spending. Steve Cohen's got unlimited dollars. How did he make all of his money, Steve Cohen?
Must have done it legally because he still got it. But he doesn't care about the luxury tax. Somebody wrote early this morning on one of the Baseball Insiders websites that their payroll is like right now is like 320, and that doesn't include all the other spots they still got to fill and the pitchers they have to sign. So that they're thinking it's going to have a $380 million payroll, but money's no object. Open checkbook.
Met fans got to be thrilled. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
this is like Christmas morning for them.
Now we'll see. I mean, the Yankees, as of early this morning with the start of the winter baseball meetings, they were talking the talk. That we're going to go get 3 guys. We're going to spend the Soto money to get 3 established guys who are going to make us a better collective team. We'll see if that happens.
We'll see.
Next one.
Keep moving. Okay, let's go to Chris. And he goes, Soto will be paid $34 per second of baseball played for 15 years. The guy really was all about being paid every last penny. He's a bat-swinging mercenary, marginal improvement for the Mets after Alonso leaves, but a bad rotation. Enjoy him, Queens.
Yeah, he does hit well at Citi Field. And again, he's going back to the National League East, which has got some bandbox ballparks. So it'll be interesting to see how he copes with the contract. But he coped in New York. I mean, the media pressure on him, because every press briefing in that clubhouse somewhere, somebody asked the question, free agency, how you handling it? What do you think about it? Well, now you got the contract. How are you going to do it with this contract? You feel the pressure with this contract. You know you're the public enemy number 1 with this contract. It's going to go on and on and on for Soto. So we'll see. Although he's just kind of not paying attention to any of it, but he got his bucks.
Yeah, he's the kind of personality that's not going to get sidetracked by all that nonsense, because he's got like a strong sort of internal fortitude, at least when I think of Soto.
Dude better not hit 221, though, at Citi Field.
Well, yeah, remember when he came to the Padres, he wasn't very good for a while. And we were like, what the hell? I mean, yeah, with that burden of that contract. But I will say this, Chris brings up an interesting point, $34 per second. It's funny how you can kind of cook up these different mathematical things. Like for me, one of the big realizations is that when Clayton Kershaw signed a deal for $30 million a year, assuming he got 30 starts and 100 pitches per start, that worked out to $10,000 a pitch. I mean, it just sounds crazy.
But he was always winning.
Yeah, he was.
So I was never good in arithmetic, algebra, long division. Screw it. Next topic.
Next topic. Okay. Let's go to Running Man. He goes, agree, Hacksaw, just a money grab for Soto. He doesn't give a bleep about winning. Just pay me the money. Then he will complain that the team isn't any good.
Well, that's the thing. You know, one of his comments at the end of October was, I want to go to a winner. You know, I want to go and be surrounded by stars where I can contribute. He goes to the Mets. And the Mets, I'm sorry, outside of, I think Francisco Lindor's a great player.
Oh, yeah.
But outside of 2 or 3 guys, that's a ragtag roster. And now he's a New York Met. And their pitching staff, to me, is substandard. I don't think that's a very good pitching staff, and you need pitching in addition to hitting. But it was all about the bank as it relates to Soto and Scott Boras.
Yeah, well, look, Scott Boras comes through for his clients. And, you know, some people think he's evil, and I know you have a lot to say about Boras, but dude comes through for his guys. And you got to say, you got to give it up to Boras.
Isn't it against the law to hold somebody hostage?
Who's being held hostage?
He's holding his players out to the highest bidder. Oh, that's capitalism. That's the American way.
Well, that's what you could search for a new job. You're trying to get paid, you know, get what you're worth. And if they're willing to pay it, take the money.
So you're going to hire Scott Boras to represent you here, and when we start talking podcast contracts.
Yeah, that's what I need to do.
You'll be unemployed.
Okay.
Next one.
Okay, more Soto talk. There's so much of it. This is from David. Soto will be one of the biggest busts. Ohtani is his own economy. Personal and team endorsements. Hundreds of records broken in 2024. 3 unanimous MVPs, World Series. Mets will miss the playoffs in 2025.
I asked the question. Somebody can respond. John never actually gave me an answer, kind of talked around it. Is Soto a generational player compared to the generational player we saw Ohtani become, player, person, marketing whiz? Is he a generational player in the same sentence that we considered, remember, Hammer and Hank Aaron, Say Hey Willie Mays, etc.?
You know, the short answer is no. Okay. He's young. He's only 26. So it's hard to compare him against Hank Aaron, you know, but if he has a career like Hank, it could turn out that way. But it's just the timing of it and the economics. He hit free agency right at a time when baseball is booming and is overflowing with money, and the dude cashed in. So you can't blame him for that. Now, going back to David's point, wouldn't it be something if the Mets missed the playoffs? It'd be like the Padres in 2023.
$51 million a year. That's what Soto's getting. $51 million a year.
Yeah. Show me the money, man.
for somebody who's not a generational player, but that's okay by you.
Well, it's hard to compare with Ohtani, by the way, because Ohtani is like on another solar system, but if you kind of remove Ohtani, I mean, who else is Soto kind of similar to Bryce Harper? I'd say, yeah. Is Soto similar to Manny Machado or Fernando Tatis? Yeah, kind of, granted.
Not anymore.
Well, yeah. Now that by the way, those deals that the Padres signed for Machado and Tatis don't look so bad anymore. Even Xander Bogaerts.
I'm sorry, they look bad on the books if they carry these players through age 40 to 42. They look bad on the books, Jeff.
Well, Soto is going to play to age 41, right? A 15-year deal, and he's 26. Yep. There you go.
You can try to rationalize it, but you can't convince me.
Okay.
Thank you for the input, David.
Okay, let's keep moving here. And this is from Bub Rad. He says, the AL East is wide open now. Blue Jays, Red Sox, and Orioles can easily take out the division if they have a good offseason.
Well, we'll see what's going to happen because the Red Sox wanted a second meeting. The Blue Jays wanted a second meeting, never got that meeting. Therefore, they're going to dive back in. And both of them are going after Bregman. One of them's going after Corbin Burns, frontline pitcher. So there's more transactions to take place. There's still a significant number of quality players that are available in free agency, even though some names have started to drop off the board within the last 24 hours. So we'll see how quickly some of these other dominoes fall and where those guys relocate to.
You didn't mention the Rays. Poor Rays.
Poor Tampa.
Yeah, they got trouble. But, remember the AL East has always been such a competitive division. All the big boys in that division. I
made the comment about, I know Mike Elias, general manager of the Orioles, came from the Astros organization. And I thought to myself, because he inherited a really bad situation, that thing had deteriorated in Baltimore, something fierce. We were losing 100 games every year.
Yeah.
The one season, I think they lost 117. And I thought to myself, he's going to be the general manager in Baltimore. That's great. But he's going to be the general manager in Baltimore in the American League East. And that's when the Yankees, the Red Sox, and Toronto are bad boys. How do you rebuild? You got to play all those teams, so many games every year. What a nightmare.
It's funny to talk about the Blue Jays. Don't you get the sense that the Blue Jays are just desperate to be relevant? And they're willing to spend the money. It's like, someone come up here to Toronto, give us some love. And they just keep getting spurned, for the New York teams.
And you know what's going to happen a year from today? A year from today, when the baseball meetings open, Vlad Guerrero is going to be a free agent. So he might not be in Toronto in the 416 area code for a long, long time to come.
You're good with area codes, by the way.
Damn right. Talk show host. I called all those area codes.
Yeah, you do it all. Okay, let's keep moving. Let's talk a little college football playoffs. And Manga says, watch out for SMU.
Really dangerous. They got up off the deck. I mean, they were getting stomped by Clemson. I thought, this is going to be one of John Riley's 50-7 blowouts. And they really came back. Kevin Jennings just played his guts out. So, they're in the playoffs. I just don't think from a talent depth standpoint that SMU probably has the equal ability. But boy, they're good offensively, and they do chuck it around that field. And Jennings has gotten progressively more dangerous as the season's gone on as a starting quarterback. So, hey, SMU deserved to get there. A lot of screeching that SMU shouldn't be in this playoff, that it should have been Bama or should have been somebody else. But they earned it. I mean, they lost 2 games, and they obviously lost to a really, really good, Georgia team or a Clemson team.
Well, have you heard this argument that SMU had to play an extra game against a tough opponent in their conference championship, and Alabama didn't? So should SMU be penalized for losing to the champion of the conference when Alabama wasn't even in the championship game?
Yeah, but Alabama's response is, we play in the toughest conference in the country. Do you know how many quality ranked teams we played all year long, and we beat virtually all of them? Alabama's saying, well, we're going to have to reconsider now what we're doing in terms of schedule. You mean you're going to drop Mercer from the schedule? Mercer, who they played in week 11? That Mercer?
Mercer. I remember those guys every once in a while. They show up in March Madness. Alabama's like the Kansas City Chiefs, man. They're always getting breaks, from all the power people, whether it's the refs or the conference officials. That I remember for every year, it seemed like Alabama was on the edge of not getting into the 2 or the 4-team playoff, and then they'd always get in.
I really thought it was going to be a great year for Kalen DeBoer because he had Jalen Milroe back as quarterback. And I thought Milroe was ready to be a superstar. In fact, I thought he was a Heisman Trophy candidate He was one of the top 5 guys that I considered when the season started, but boy, he had a very erratic up and down year, a lot of turnovers. Bama was good, but Bama was not unblemished. I mean, they got bloodied a couple times, and that's why they're out of the playoffs. They're not happy at all. Well, call the guys in Tallahassee, ask them how they felt a year ago today. The same thing happened to Florida State, and Florida State was unbeaten. They lost their quarterback, and they got bumped. Okay.
Keep moving. Okay, let's talk some puck with Derek. And he says, Trouba is pretty much cooked.
Well, we'll see. He's got miles. There's no doubt about it. But sometimes it changes scenery, changing working relationships. He's going to play for a pretty good coach in Greg Cronin. They want him to be a leader. And that's such a young franchise. They really need somebody with persona who's had success. And I think Trouba has had a lot of success. All they did was give up a back-end rotation defenseman and give up a 4th-round pick. So if he can come in and kind of find the fountain of youth, then maybe he gives them the final couple of good years on that contract. There's a lot of intangibles. A lot of people think he can give them just because of who he is.
Yeah, but it's that veteran that joins the young kids and kind of shows them the way.
Pick up the flag, follow me.
Yeah, exactly. And he doesn't need to be at the prime of his career to be able to do that.
As long as he's not a minus 20.
Yeah.
And can't move and can't get the puck out of the zone and can't clear it from in front of the net. But the hockey people that I emailed with after this trade said, pretty good acquisition. They didn't pay a big price, except they did spend a lot of free agent money that they had in their checking account to take on that contract.
Yeah, well, you got money, use it. Okay, let's keep moving. Let's go to Patrick and more Soto talk. Plain to see Soto has no loyalties to any team. Hope the Mets don't think this one guy is going to win them any kind of a championship.
Well, it's interesting because his persona is really different than Peter Alonso. Alonso's become kind of a cult figure in New York.
Yeah, he is.
Grinder, home run hitter. Yeah, he strikes out, throws bats, etc. But he's there. He plays every day. He's just got a different personality than Soto. And again, I've dealt with Soto. I've been in that Padre clubhouse with Soto. I was kind of turned off because Soto was all about Soto, and I just got the sense that everything that was coming out of Soto's mouth was what Boris told them to say. Soto is just different than Peter Alonso. Be interesting to see if they keep Alonso. They have to pay him. I mean, because he did hit 41 home runs or whatever it was this past season. Be interested to see if he stays there because he's a cult figure there. But as you said, right guy, right time, right place, right amount of money because the money's available.
All the stars align. But by the way, don't you think Pete Alonso's nickname, the Polar Bear, is just perfect?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just because he's big and white, but he's kind of the shape of his body is like a polar bear.
The correct word is thick.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think he is a character. But to this other comment about Patrick said Soto has no loyalties, I strongly disagree. Soto is loyal to Steve Cohen and the Mets. I mean, he just signed a 15-year deal. I mean, so, that's loyalty, right?
At the end of the day, he was offered $440 million, which was mega money by the Washington Nationals. And there was a stretch of time where I said, look at the roster that Mike Rizzo has put together. Because at that point, it was Rizzo and it was Trey Turner. And at that point, it was Steven Strasburg. And they had a young outfielder. I think his name was Victor Reyes, who everybody projected he was going to be a star also. He got badly hurt and his career just kind of filtered away. But at one point, they had all these guys, and then Soto turned down that money, and the whole thing unraveled. And Washington had to go into rebuild mode, and then Strasburg was forced into early retirement because of all the shoulder surgeries. But at one point, they had won, and at one point, they had all these good young guys together.
Well, the Nationals are better off for trading him. I mean, they got C.J. Abrams and Mackenzie Gore and James Wood, all these really top prospects from the Padres. I think the Nationals are going to be fine. I think the Padres did good on the trade with Soto as well.
Which was then an offshoot to get Dylan Cease.
Right. Yeah. So that was all very creative moves by A.J. Preller, kind of working it. But yeah, here we go.
All I know is by the time A.J. comes back, I want to see gift wrapped under my tree, Roki Sasaki. And if you can add one other pitcher to go with Sasaki, and maybe it's Bueller, maybe it's Flaherty. If you could add one more guy, maybe it's Crochet. If you could give me two pitchers underneath my Christmas tree back here, that's a pretty good Christmas gift to Padre fans if you can execute it.
Yeah, I mean, clearly they got to get more pitching because you can count on Cease and King and Darvish. And after that, it's a lot of question marks.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, Randy Vasquez,
Yeah.
Johnny Brito. And I like Waldron.
Yeah, he's fun to watch.
But that's kind of like a lump of coal in my stocking if you're telling me, hey, we're going to win with these guys.
Yeah, but Preller is not done. He's got work to do. You can count on that.
Patrick, thank you for joining us. Fans Forum, next one.
Okay, let's go here to Daniel. He goes, touchdown, San Diego. From Baja to the Canadian Rockies. This is sports talk. I don't care if you're first, second, or third in the rotation. If you are patient, I will get to you.
That's the long form for the short form that I used occasionally when I was making comments towards him. Get off your ass and get on the air. Come on, John. John, first-time caller, long-time loser, Poway, or whatever that rhetoric was. Oh, no, I only directed that towards Raider fan.
I remember I called into the show in the late 1980s. We called to you, and I was doing rotisserie baseball in the early days, and the Padres had Bip Roberts for leading off, and then Tony Gwynn was the number 2 hitter, and Tony Gwynn wasn't stealing as many bases. And for me and my fantasy team, I needed him to steal more. And I called you. I go, what do you think? Why isn't Tony Gwynn running as much? And, by the way, he was getting a little bit heavier at that point.
You think?
Yeah. And you had said, well, he's the number 2 guy. He's just trying to punch the ball through the open hole and on the left side. And it was just classic Hacksaw back in the day.
Ask a question, get an answer.
There you go.
Don't like the answer? Too bad for you.
Hey, I want to go back to David here. He wanted to bring up a follow-up. He says, my point here is that the Ohtani contract is generating a lot of money for the Dodgers and himself. Soto going to be a bust.
Well, I don't know that Soto's going to get, because maybe Soto doesn't need it because of the contract he just signed. Soto's not going to get those type of endorsements in New York City. Aaron Judge has some, but not to the magnitude of a global personality like Ohtani. I went back and I counted 15 different Pacific Rim corporations that have signage in and around Dodger Stadium.
Yeah.
15. Airlines, car manufacturers, food, clothing, travel agents. I mean, if you just if you just Google Dodger Stadium and you get a picture, count how many outfield signs all come from the Pacific Rim. All that happened since the Ohtani signing. So, I mean, the Dodgers are raking in volumes of money by virtue of the marketing of the superstar, and he's got his own personal contract. I was told he makes $50 to $60 million a year just on endorsements, aside from what his baseball salary is.
Wow, man, it's a good time to be alive if you're an athlete. I mean, and it's good. I mean, a lot of people are angry they're making so much money because they're regular people don't make that kind of money. But you just got to love it. These guys they're doing what they love and they're getting paid huge money to do it. And we love them for it. And we watch them and we spend money on them. Everyone's happy except some of these bitter people that don't like guys having success.
Just don't hit 221 wearing my uniform next year.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Hey, couple here on social media. Boys, what a busy day today.
Oh, my God. There's a ton going on here. Let's go social media. Okay, let's talk about Preller. AJ Preller. This is from Bone. He says, same narrative as last year, and the roster is one of the best in baseball. Let Preller cook.
I'm not sure I understand what let Preller cook means, but go ahead. You know that demographic.
No, it's the Padres. He's going to work the roster. He's going to find guys, boots on the ground. He's going to make deals. That's what Preller does.
That's who he is. I was with him Friday night. That's who he is. It's just absolutely funny. I mean, he was getting ready to go to the winter baseball meetings, and he's always interesting. Never tips his hands. His cards are always in his pocket.
Definitely.
But he's made so many trades. I mean, he's traded the farm system away 3 times. I think he's made 25 or 28 trades of significance since becoming general manager. He'll go there, and if he can make a deal to get Crochet from the White Sox, who's affordable, his price is only $2.9 million next year. He's got 2 years arbitration. If they could get Crochet and come home with Sasaki, problem solved. Now, if they can't, because there's other people have better farm systems. Red Sox have a much better farm system. Yankees have more numbers of players in their farm system to make a deal to get Crochet. So if you can't get Crochet or you don't get Sasaki, you still got a chance at Jack Flaherty. You still got a chance at Walker Buehler, and those are proven commodities. Prices obviously will be lower than the superstars. Those prices will be a little bit higher, though, than what you get Sasaki for, what you get Crochet for the next 2 years. So he's always dealt. He's always found a way to find pitching. whether it was Nick Martinez in Japan and Robert Suarez. And I said, you're giving $5 million and $7 million a year to guys in Japan that nobody in baseball wanted. Look what they became. That's because his scouting system works, and then he went and got Waka, and he went and got Lugo, and they gave him one really solid summer of trustworthy starting. And then when they became too expensive, he let them go. He's not going to pay those guys $15 million a year, which is what Kansas City gave both of them. So he creatively finds ways to get pitchers. I think by Friday night, when the winter meetings end, the roster we had at breakfast this morning will be different than the roster we're going to have Friday night.
Oh yeah, it could be radically different. I mean, I've seen speculation from fans on social media that maybe the Padres should trade Dylan Cease. Part of it is because they got to get rid of the contract because they can't afford him. And people have speculated, how about go to the Boston Red Sox and then bring Marcelo Meyer back home? The kid that played at Eastlake. He's a really good prospect.
Yeah. Social media is great because everybody is a journalist. Everybody has an opinion, but you have to be an insider to understand the philosophy, and you have to deal with these people to know it a little bit better.
Well, you were hanging out with AJ on Friday. You and Bernie Wilson.
Yeah.
I got the photo into one of the videos.
Okay, real good. Let's do a couple more here, social media, before we put a lid on this.
Okay, let's talk Dodgers pitching. This is with Mike Daub. He goes, as a Dodger fan, I love seeing the Padres with problems. But Hacksaw, you said the Dodgers had a pitching problem heading into the offseason, and look what happened. I'm not sure it's time for Padre fans to panic. They still have a strong team.
Well, they got a strong everyday team, and I think they've got enough frontline starters, but they don't have a lot of trustworthy depth in that pitching rotation. They squeezed every pitch, every inning they could out of Waldron, and by the time the most important part of the season came, he was not in their plans. And, they only pitched Vasquez as often as they pitched Vasquez because they had nobody else, and Brito self-destructed, and they must not believe that Morion can be a starting pitcher because of the history of arm problems, so they'd rather keep him as a one-inning setup guy. So they're going to need to go find some depth along the way. Dodgers did have problems. My God, the Dodgers, at one point, the bullpen had an ERA of over 6, and at one point, the rotation was just a disaster. And we did the survey of how many surgeries they had. They've had 9 pitching surgeries this past year from spring training right up till November. But there's strength in numbers because they're going to get some of these injured guys back, and there's more strength in numbers because by the middle of the season, they have a couple more of these young arms back who've had surgeries, and they still got a couple guys that are going to be out all of 2025. So, but there's strength in numbers. You need volume of pitching numbers, and the Padres don't have that right now.
Yeah, the Dodgers have an unbelievable quantity. Let's pretend that you're Dave Roberts, and let's assume that Sasaki doesn't come to the Dodgers or Crochet. You're dealing with what you got. Who's your number one starter?
Oh, you got Glass now.
Okay, he'll be healthy.
Then you got Yamamoto.
Right.
That's 2.
Who's after that?
Oh, you asked me too quick. Oh, Blake Snell.
Blake Snell, of course.
Come on,
yeah,
John.
Yeah, Blake Snell.
You're having a senior moment on me.
Okay, so that's 3. Okay, and maybe Gonsolin, would he be one of the starters?
He's available. Dustin May is available. They're completely healthy. They're on Camelback Ranch. It is December, and they're throwing full bore now. They have potential right now as of today. I think they got 8 starters. But the guys at the front end that's big time.
Yeah. I mean, it is crazy, though, because all season we were talking about how the Dodger pitching staff was a shambles. And then all of a sudden in game 4 of the NLC or DS, they figured it out. And then they just blew doors the rest of the way. It was just incredible.
Got hot, got healthy at the right time. And I could have never imagined that bullpen would do that at the most important time of the year as to what they did to the Padres.
Well, speaking of that bullpen, the Dodgers signing Blake Trinan again, that's a hell of a move. That guy is special.
He's got wicked stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he's come back from arm problems too. He's just one of the number of guys. And, Evan Phillips is green-lighted go and starts throwing in January with no problems with his shoulder. So, and then you still got Kershaw that's out there. So, there is strength in numbers, and the Dodgers have what the Padres don't have, which is an enormous amount of depth. And most of these guys are now getting healthy. Granted, there'll be a couple that won't be able to pitch. Gavin Stone won't pitch in 2025, shoulder surgery. Maybe Bobby Miller finally gets healthy and can be what he was when he first came out. Dodgers, to me, you just go on paper. I've got in one of my many lists all over the place, I got this whole potential as Dodger starters. And that doesn't include 8 guys in the bullpen.
Right.
So,
Or Sasaki or crochet,
right.
That could be added there as well. I mean, it's insane.
And their checkbook is open too, like the Mets checkbook is open.
It's unbelievable. I mean, and they're in the same division with the Padres, which just makes it so horrible.
I just want Sasaki and crochet underneath my Christmas tree for Padre fans.
That would be a nice gift, wouldn't it?
Okay. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed our podcast. We do this Mondays at 1 p.m., Thursdays at 1 p.m. Want you to share, email everybody in your address book, on your Rolodex, on social media. Tell them who we are. Check my website. I write on it every day of the week. The latest baseball stories this week. If you're a baseball fan, check the website, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Subscribe. I want you to share with everybody what we do. Make sure that you also join our Hacksaws Insiders group off my website, and tell people, go on social media and follow me at Hacksaw 1090. Lots of ways to stay up on everything that's happening, especially this week. Hot Stove League, it's really cool. And then obviously we got NFL football, college football playoffs coming too. Podcast brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. Looking for stocking stuffer or Christmas? Think Dixie Line Lumber gift card. Just tell them Hacksaw and his friend John Riley sent you in. John, take a deep breath. We'll see what the week brings us. We'll be back here Thursday at 1 p.m. We're going to still talk and negotiate whether we should flip our Thursday show to Friday. You'll have to tell us which is a better day of the week for you, because I do like the phrase Beer Friday. I think that's kind of a cool way to discuss this talk show.
Yeah, as long as we got a keg and it's tapped and then the beer is flowing, then that'll be good.
Talk to you come Thursday.
Thursday, looking forward to it.
Thanks for being with us. Always great to have you part of this. We do sports talk the way it should be. Thanks for joining our podcast, Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast app. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.